Now, ladies and gentlemen, before their first dance, I wanted to take a few minutes to share with you the history of Jordan and Mike. Certainly, you know why we are here, but very few of you know exactly how we got to be here. Which is why Jordan and Mike are having me present their love story. This is what happened. A few weeks ago, Jordan and Mike provided detailed answers to a questionnaire about the evolution of their relationship, and they didn't share their answers with each other. From their responses, I composed their love story, which I would now like to present to them and you. Now, there will be a few moments during the telling of the story that'll be so touching, so sticky, saccharine sweet that you'll be so overcome with emotion and warm fuzzies, and you won't be able to contain yourself, and you'll think, "Aww." And I'm gonna want you to say it. So if you would please practice it once with me on 3. 1, 2, 3. Aww. Okay, seems like we're ready. And we begin. The love story of Jordan and Mike began, as Mike tells it, on December 2nd, 2005. A bitter cold and snowy, but not at all quiet night. Rescue 1 was on the scene of a structure fire with a confirmed entrapment, i.e., somebody stuck in a burning building. 2 people, actually, on the 2nd floor. Our courageous hero led his team to the trapped civilians and began their harrowing trip to safety. Mike was the last in line, and just as they were approaching the sanctuary of the building's exit, a loud noise signaled serious trouble. The floor collapsed from under his feet, sending Mike plummeting to the basement below. And as he stirred from unconsciousness, he heard a muffled cry for help. It was Jordan. He saved her that night from the burning building and almost certain death in the nick of time, and watched as the medics drove her off to the hospital. He went there the next morning to find the girl he'd saved, and they started talking, and their talk continued for 4 hours. The rest is history. It's a truly exciting story, if you believe it, but it's all bull. Not a word of it true. They just like telling that fictitious tale because they really met online in a chat room. As Jordan tells it, she was bored chatting online with a mutual friend and asked if he had any other friends online who she could chat with. He invited Mike into the chat room, which Mike explains was probably the worst decision he ever made. And that happens to be where they chatted for hours. It seemed like they knew each other forever. They decided it would be a good idea to meet in person and arrange to go on a first date. Jordan recalls a crazy butterfly feeling in her stomach. She impatiently waited for him to pick her up, and everything seemed to feel just right. And in the distance, she could hear the rumble of a powerful, manly, supercharged, highly customized Ford engine. It grew louder as it got closer, and then a badass custom 2004 Mustang GT pulled up to her house. The door swung open, and there and then she laid her eyes for the very first time upon the man she would one day marry. He was wearing a snug, form-fitting shirt and smelled of a fragrance called Armani Code. That was Mike's go-to fragrance for the ladies. Jordan's dad met him at the door, and he wasn't as intimidating and imposing as Mike feared he'd be. In fact, Mike says, he looked an awful lot like comedian Jeff Foxworthy, which made him far less menacing. Mike admits to this day that whenever he sees the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, he envisions Jordan's dad telling the jokes. When Mike Mike first met Jordan in person, the first thing he remembers noticing was her jeans. They had holes in them. And the knees were ripped out. And there were slashes and stains on them. His first thought, oh my God, this girl can't even afford new pants. What did I get myself into? Closer inspection revealed an Abercrombie shirt and jacket with Tiffany jewelry. He figured he was safe then. Mike took his new date to the movies, and they don't seem to recall the same one. Mike says it was The Fog. Jordan remembers seeing Elizabethtown. And after he dropped her off that night, Mike recalls sitting in his car thinking to himself, he knew that this was the girl he was gonna marry. Everyone? Aww.
Give a kiss.
2 months later, and very shortly before Christmas, they broke up. But 9 months later, Jordan mustered the courage to send him a text message. It was more difficult for them to get together again now that Mike was away in college, but during a weekend visit home, they went on another first date. Before their movie, they walked through the shopping center when Mike did something out of the blue and completely unexpected. He reached to grab and hold Jordan's hand. Aww. Jordan immediately got that crazy butterfly feeling again and brandished a huge smile. Mike came back from home from college the following weekend and asked her to be his girlfriend again. It was December 2nd, 2006. Soon it became apparent to everyone that they had fallen deeply, helplessly, and hopelessly in love. Sweet, giddy love. When they were together, colors would seem more vibrant. Birds would sing in harmony, and little furry creatures would gather together in pairs wherever they went. Jordan realized in high school that Mike was the man for her. She realized it when she was willing to sit on a couch and watch TV with him and be completely fine with doing that. He didn't have to take her to expensive restaurants or buy things for her to realize just how amazing he was. She also realized it when, even after 2 years into their relationship, she still got that butterfly feeling every time she thought of seeing him, and tears in her eyes when she knew that he had to leave. She loved that he would do everything and anything to make her happy. Mike also knew that she was the one. He wanted Jordan to be with him for the rest of his life, but first he had to find the engagement ring. In October of 2008, he presented her with a promise ring.